Today on the Topping Show, Matt Walsh roasts modern pizza chains as they seem to decrease in quality and increase in price. Rand Paul on SNAP being used for junk food. Stellantis pushes back on the EU ban against gasoline engines. The 2026 Porsche Cayenne EV will cost over $110,000. And Honda Accord Hybrid, well, it has a recall. All of that and much more on the Topping Show. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of the Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and service company with a special proficiency IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Gotta say, he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, see, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or business owner, reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free Flamethrower with every IT purchase, with Picatinny rail adapters that can mount it to any standard AR-15 like all awesome accessories can be. Go to toppingtechnologies.com and click the Flamethrower button to learn more and see me shooting a Flamethrower. And lastly, trying to get 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you can click that button and tell your friends and your enemies, I would greatly appreciate it. Now going over to the business part of the podcast, the 2026 Porsche Cayenne EV going to cost over $110,000 for all 18 people who want to buy it. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating just a little bit. Probably only 10 people want to buy this. Now, Sparters, thanks to thedrive.com, specifically Adam Eastmill, who's a writer over there. And here you can see the Porsche EV SUV. And he says, quote, the 2026 Porsche Cayenne Electric is a $111,000 EV that can charge wirelessly. Ooh, that'll make it worth the price. They say the Cayenne Electric Turbo offers up to 1,139 horsepower, making it the most powerful Porsche ever sold. Also the most disappointing, boring Porsche ever sold. Yeah, those numbers aren't impressing me, Porsche. It's still an abomination. The only Cayenne really worth buying, and granted, they're hard to find, was, I believe it was the 2008 era. They had the Porsche Cayenne GTS. They had a stick shift V8 powered SUV. That is a cool SUV. Of all the SUVs I want to buy, I think that'd be the only one. And that would be really wacky. I think they imported 290 of them. They're pretty rare. But yeah, that'd be a fun car to have. Get a fun Porsche experience with the third pedal. This electric SUV, 6 figures. Yeah. But again, it's wireless charging. Ooh. Now, they say, quote, Porsche's third EV is finally here, and it's been a good while coming. Enter the Cayenne Electric. It's not only Porsche's biggest EV yet, but it's also the most powerful production car ever. Which I think also continues to go to show us that those big numbers don't matter anymore in terms of power. But nevertheless, they say, quote, is the range-topping Cayenne Turbo Electric, sending maximum 1,139 horsepower to the ground through all 4 wheels, and it even charges wirelessly, which maybe I'm somewhat of a boomer mindset. Does anyone really care about that? Can you just plug in the vehicle when you get home? Takes not even 30 seconds of effort? Maybe that's just me. And they say, quote, there's so much to talk about here. It's difficult to even know where to begin. Let's start with the battery, since Porsche considers it the heart of the Cayenne Electric. It is present in all trim levels. This is the new 113 kilowatt pack with double-sided cooling for better thermal management. Ooh, and DC charging speeds up to 400 kilowatts. In ideal conditions, it can recharge from 10% to 80% in less than 60 minutes. That's the official figure. By the way, not quite 15 or 60 minutes in true Porsche specifically. Here you can see more angles. Not that you would, but you can see more angles of the Porsche here. They have a picture of the Porsche Cayenne EV on the side of a mountain, where I'm sure one Porsche EV might go. Maybe. It is also said how many vehicles have become pavement queens throughout the years, even 911s that don't hit the track as well they should. Now, they continue saying, quote, the Cayenne Electric will come with 2 charging ports, an NACS one for DC charging only on the driver's side rear fender, and the J1772 for the AC charging only on the passenger side. If you want to charge wirelessly, though, you of course need to find the proper floor plate. Porsche didn't share the cost of the wireless charging system. Of course not. I can't but things kind of like Rolls-Royce. If they have to ask the price, I can't afford it. Personally, in terms of my budget, I'll probably get the Porsche keychain. Pretty nice. Made in Germany, leather. They're about $50. Still pretty penny. But nevertheless, they say, quote, Porsche didn't say how much it costs, like how to buy one or how much it costs, but it says it'll charge Charges at a peak of 11 kilowatts, and you'll need to park the car above it to start the charging process. The normal Cayenne Electric will offer 402 horsepower during normal driving and 435 horsepower with the 612 foot-pound of torque when launch control is activated, which breaks my heart. I think that'll be activated 3 times ever. The turbo more than doubles that. It's to 844 horsepower during regular operation, 1,017 horsepower for 10 seconds when push to pass is used, and the full 1,139 horsepower for launch control. Naturally, they're both all-wheel drive and feature adaptive air suspension with Porsche's traction and active suspension management systems, which is good. You still want them on the turbo. Here you can see more disappointing pictures of this electric Porsche SUV. Ugh. I'm sorry, I should put a visual disclaimer on the screen because you have to see this, which some people might debate is more viscerally more disgusting than my face. Just saying something. Ugh. See, at this point, I suppose it's time to note the Cayenne Electric's design, and I really don't have much to say about it. It looks more like traditional SUV than the more egg-shaped Macan Electric, but retains some of the Taycan's flow in its long nose. The lower grille is certainly interesting with those active flaps. I don't hate them, though. Porsche has done a great job of drawing attention to the aspect of the vehicle's design and technology without making it obvious. The turbo naturally goes more extreme with aero treatments, adding movable blades and cheeks to the rear bumper. It should be said that these components, plus the curvy body, will allow Cayenne Electric to achieve a drag coefficient of mere 0.25, pretty low for an SUV. The Tesla Model X is one of the few that's a bit more slippery at 0.24, though I reckon this looks better for the negligible hit in aero efficiency, which it's a low bar, but yes, this does look better than a Tesla SUV. I guess I need to give Porsche some credit. It looks better than a Tesla EV SUV. You see, the Cayenne Electric is only about 2.1 inches longer than the gas-burning model, but has 5 inches longer wheelbase, significantly improving leg rear room. Also up front, yep, there are many screens, of course. Which, again, immediately I think, dear God, how much is this going to cost to maintain throughout the life cycle of the vehicle? Like that screen alone, and again, it's one of those stupid screens that's curvy as well. Yeah, I just can't think that's going to cost more than my Honda to maintain within a couple of years. Now, again, they say, it's got all OLED screening that makes the Cayenne Electric's dash simulation a bit different than a primary central infotainment panel. It's also curved towards the bottom, so there are rocker switches for temperature and fan speed. All right, I'll give Porsche some credit. They're not as dumb as Stellantis, which some companies like to hide the settings for the important things in the infotainment screen. It drives me crazy. So at least they have some physical buttons for the things you really, really want. They also note that Porsche termed it as, quote, a careful balance between tactile functionality and digital touchscreens. We also know that Porsche expects to begin the Cayenne Electric deliveries in the U.S. next summer. I'm sure 18 people they'll be waiting for that. Really, really cannot. They'll be counting the days. They say typically when the new model is that far out, automakers don't talk about price until maybe the very day they actually buy one. Not so far for the Cayenne EV, as of we've been told. What? The standard will be $111,350, while the turbo will run $165,350. They also it does include delivery. That's nice of them. It includes the delivery of the vehicle. 165? Now, they say based on the number of times the car press release mentions a choice of powertrains to offer the Cayenne line, it seems Porsche definitely wants the world to know that the EV's existence means nothing for the gas versions, which starts at $91,150, which, again, those are awfully, infinitely more reliable. It's not saying much. So Porsche, which they're better than some of their counterparts, but 165 plus extortion from the government, depending on where you live. You have the registration fees. I mean, Texas is 6.25%, something like that, for that sales tax abomination on top of everything else. For an EV Porsche SUV. And again, I know some people like EVs. There are a couple of them out there, obviously. Like, if I had the money for a Porsche, I would not. Well, obviously, I'm not an EV guy, obviously. My cars will always only ever have 3 pedals, also known as manual transmission, and a gas engine. I will die on that soapbox, so to say, and have the track record to prove it. Pun intended, because I also go to the track. But yeah, again, now I actually do wonder, at those price points, are they even making a profit, as pretty much every company also lose money on EVs, with the exception of Tesla, though granted, you could debate that in terms of they get government subsidies. Well, they also get all those tax credits that they sell to other companies. But again, Tesla does make a profit, to the credit. This is just Porsche bleeding more money, I suspect. I don't know how much longer they can afford to do this. Well, with Volkswagen Auto Group being the parent company. But yeah, it blew my mind that they're going to charge $165,350 for the top trim level for an EV SUV. Again, the market for this is not 0 people. I'm perhaps being a little bombastic saying 18 people will buy it. But I can't think, if you had $165,000 to buy a vehicle, would you buy an EV SUV made by Porsche? I mean, obviously, if I had that kind of capital, I'd get a really nice Porsche 911 with a stick shift, obviously. But even if I had to get an SUV, I get the used one that comes with a stick shift. They had a V6 that was later. I think 2016 was the era where Porsche had the kind with a stick shift and a V6 combo, more track focused. And previously 2009 era, they had the V8 with a stick shift. If I had to get an SUV, I'd rather get the used, which is going to be half the cost. Like a really good 2009 era Porsche Cayenne GTS with a stick shift and V8 sell between $40,000 and $80,000. Now, granted, it's a used car, apples to oranges. Whatever, you've got money in your pocket. I mean, for half the cost, you can get a really nice, more reliable Porsche, which again gives, I would argue, the more Porsche experience. But let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the Cultural Part podcast, you have Matt Walsh roasting pizzerias and pizza chains as they decrease in quality throughout the years. Now, Matt Walsh, this was one of his most viral tweets of the year, getting 2.8 million views and 33,000 likes. Matt Walsh says, quote, "Every pizza delivery chain is inedible now. It wasn't always this way. You used to order pizza and they delivered actual food, even good food in some cases. Now it's all garbage. Domino's, Pizza Hut, Papa John's, Little Caesars, etc. All insultingly bad." And again, he got 33,000 likes for this and 2.8 million views. Although, I do want to have a little caveat and push back a little bit here. One of the most rudimentary pizza chains that people made fun of for decades was Domino's. When I was a kid, I kid you not, well, it's grammatically correct, though awkward, which, well, that is kind of par for the course for me. But know this, when I was growing up, my parents would not allow us to order Domino's. It was verboten. Not because it's unhealthy, it was and is, but my parents would say, "Oh no, Domino's tastes like cardboard." What was that? And that was the 90s. They had that reputation back then for being crap. Now, eventually they brought in a new CEO, brought in new ingredients, increased the quality. I mean, even when I was a kid, people said there was low quality back then. When I was a kid, the OG, or the best quality in terms of, again, a mass chain, would be Papa John's, when John Papa John was leading the company. Before they forced him out, they really did focus on quality. I mean, one of my favorite books is literally called, is it just Papa John? Let me see here. No, it's called Papa. It's written by, of course, the founder of Papa John's. And he talks about, how passionate he was about literally having better ingredients. That was their whole tagline: better ingredients, better pizza. Now they have different ingredients. But again, back then, I can see pizza, yeah. When he was pushed out the second time, the quality did go down because they changed a lot of the suppliers for the ingredients. But again, in terms of like pizza always being good, even when I was a kid, Little Caesars was a great value for the money. It was never like, this is a high quality ingredients, this is a true delicious experience. It's like, all right, I need cheap pizza for a Friday night. It's good enough. So again, I think there's a little bit of Matt with rose tinted glasses. And I do understand a lot of fast food, a lot of food in general these days is decreasing in quality while the price keeps going up. But yeah, I think a little of this is just a little bit of nostalgia. Also, things taste better before you're paying taxes when you were a kid. It's like, oh yeah, that was a, can't forget about how much you're extorted or stolen from the government. But yeah, this is one of Matt Walsh's most viral tweets, and we'll read the comments in a second. But I mean, the cost, I'm surprised you didn't mention that. The cost of fast food is so abhorrent. I've not had fast food myself in terms of like personally. I have 15 years plus? No, more than that. I've been to, first time in my life, I did go to Whataburger with a client. It's all right. It's a pretty good patty. But yeah, I'm definitely not a fast food guy. I'm a little bit of a health freak. Like, I took some of the team out to not Whataburger, the competitor from California, In-N-Out. And, I just got, the regular meat patty. Yes, I am weird. We've been through this before if you're a consistent viewer. But, yeah, the price is just getting so insane. Like, in terms of going myself, I mean, I just use the microwave at home to make something, and it's getting insane. Now, one of the first comments replying to Matt comes from Jesse Kelly saying, quote, "Not sure the Little Caesars deserve to catch a stray like this. Show someone some respect," getting 703 likes. Matt Walsh said, "It's not a stray. I'm aiming directly for Little Caesars," getting 427 likes, which, mean, talk about one of the best entrepreneurs in U.S. history. The founder of Little Caesars, I believe he's also a World War II veteran. He started a pizzeria, brick by brick, built it out, helped fix Detroit, bring massive jobs to the area, and was so successful he even bought the Red Wings and as well as I believe the Detroit Tigers. And he is a legend in terms of turning a company around, and he's given so much to charity. I think I do need to pick. I believe there's a book about him. I need to pick up and add to my collection of novels that I like to read. But it's instance where, again, the quality's never been the best. It's always been all right. The Noisy Immigrant says, quote, capitalism sucks. Ha, getting 1.3 thousand likes. Matt Walsh responded and said, quote, pretty sure we had capitalism back when pizza was good, getting 5.8 thousand likes. Yep. Greg says, give D's a try, the only good one left. IMO getting 2.5 thousand likes. Fast Fast 84 says, I got Paisano, make your own pizza. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'll only get 12 likes. I'll give her a like. Which, yeah, oh man. I think I talked about in nauseum last couple episodes, talking about, men and women relationships, and one of the most beautiful things you can do for someone is to cook for them. And yeah, what was it? My mom used to get the raw ingredients from Trader Joe's when times are good, or, get a little extra jingle in her pocket. More of a Jewel Osco family growing up. But nevertheless, you get the raw ingredients for pizza, you make it at home from scratch. Oh, that's next level delicious. You just can't beat a chain when it comes to homemade. You also have AKA saying, quote, in fairness, Domino's isn't horrible. Oh, come on. They did turn around. Again, anecdotally, I haven't had pizza in, when I was in college. About 18 years? I'm a pretty picky eater. I'm weird, obviously. Sassafras Eternia says, Walsh speaks the truth. The managerial class doesn't want to hear. The food is trash because they treat the customer as an obstacle to quarterly profit. They cut quality and cheapen ingredients to pay off the inflation tax created by leftist spending. The decline is spiritual. When a society stops caring about basic sustenance, it's spiritually and economically finished. In 281 likes. Conservative Alternative says, quote, visit St. Louis and order IMO's pizza. It's the most exquisite form of the pie on earth. Getting 22 likes. President Cat says Kings never changed. And they have a picture of Sbarro. 881 likes, which that was mall pizza. I don't think anyone that would ever say Sbarro is the best pizza chain out there. I mean, back in the day when I was in college, they had one on campus in Iowa. Yeah, even then it was kind of greasy and crappy. I think I had it one time. You also have Paul Kamen saying, quote, not sure if they deliver, but Jets is phenomenal. 757 likes. Daniel Hall says, best bang for your buck, and one of my weekly budget GOTOs is, looks like Totino's Pizza Party Pack. Got 363 likes. Nate John Bach says, quote, everything is off about every bite. I've been loving this $8.99 freezer pie. It looks like it's Motor City Pizza Company, getting 125 likes. JT Jonathan Kendrick has pictured John Papa John and says, quote, stay tuned, the day of reckoning will come. Get 884 likes, which, yeah. Although I think he liquidated all his stock. He's completely separated from the company. Let's see here. The middle ground Mike says, quote, bring back these old Pizza Huts. Pizza is good and the reason to go inside and eat. Getting 457 likes, which, it's also a huge cultural shift in fast food and food in general, is they used to very much cater towards the child experience and the family experience. Because again, the boomers had a lot of kids. We're not really having a lot of kids these days. The birth rate in the United States is dramatically declining. That's why a lot of these chains have been pivoting to more, pretty much just delivery systems in terms of, good case in point would probably be Little Caesars, where you can walk inside and get it, but you can actually sit down and enjoy it. Let's see here. Superfly says classic. And guy goes, Little Caesars is hot and ready. Me, is it good? Little Caesars is hot and ready. 492 likes, which, yeah. Tabitha Anchor says the main reason I learned how to make sourdough pizza crust. There's some very delicious looking homemade pizza, getting 257 likes. The heck? New England Patriot says, I hear this pizza is really good. It's just a pizza covered in change. Getting 216 likes. A lot of homemade pizza in the comments, looking delicious. Goats to Respecter says, quote, I'm firmly of the opinion if Pizza Hut scrapped all the modern health nonsense and brought back the recipes and vibes of the 1990s and early 2000s, they would leave the competition in the dust, getting 625 likes. Kitty says, inexpensive, homemade all day, getting 145 likes. Firefly Actual says, quote, I say this as someone who actually enjoys Little Caesars. When was it ever good? The whole point was that it was hot, cheap, and passable. You went down to Little Caesars with $30, got 4 pizzas, breadsticks, a 2-liter, then piled back in the car and went home for a split screen of Halo 2. Getting 627 likes, which those were the days. Pizza tastes better back then, I swear. Soapy Lampshade says, quote, that's because they're all owned by Vanguard and BlackRock. For instance, Pizza Hut is owned by Yum Brands Inc., who owns Yum Brands Inc., you might ask? BlackRock and Vanguard. And he says, then he goes down he claims that the Jews are behind it, which, I don't know, pizza? That'd be a new one. I don't think they are. And they note that Blackguard, what is this? Vanguard Group, Stock Exchange, Yum Brands. Jeez Louise, Vanguard has 281,690,827 shares of Yum Brands. Jeez Louise. That is a lot of shares. Getting 311 likes. We also have Ryan Newman says, it's always bad. Your tastes have just matured, getting 140 likes. No, I think, again, it's not to only keep making fun of pizza, pizzerias or, well, I guess Papa John's, but like, again, a lot of these companies have decreased in quality because they changed the ingredients, partially because, again, they're trying to keep the cost down, and the government, thanks to the left and the right, keep causing inflation to get worse and worse and worse. And consumers don't like the idea of spending, $50, $60 on fast food. It's abhorrent. They're not going to want to do that. So again, one of the few variables to control is, again, in terms of labor rates going up in the United States as well. Well, these restaurants, there's only so many levers they can pull to keep getting you a product at a certain price point. The biggest variable that they can control, realistically, is going to be the ingredients cost. Again, the cost of labor is usually fixed by the state, and then you have the federal minimum wage law as well. They have their cost of real estate in terms of where they're renting or they own the actual sites it's being cooked at. And yeah, it's one of those things where, again, also in terms of your monthly budget, one of the biggest ways you can save money is just, tightening your belt in terms of looking at your grocery bill and augmenting that or changing that. That was a great piece of advice my mom gave me years ago when I was a kid, because again, you look at your expenses as an adult, most of your expenses are kind of locked in terms of your rent, your cost of your internet, you got your cost of your electricity usually being moderately consistent, you got your cost of your water being moderately consistent, and your grocery bills, again, your insurance is usually locked in for 6 to 12 months as well. A lot of the monthly expenses are locked in for a long amount of time. Some part of your budget that can have a very immediate effect on is decreasing your grocery bill. And again, I think part of this is nostalgia, but man, if I had to get pizza right now, well, I wouldn't because I'm a health nut, but or realistically, if my team wanted pizza, where would I choose to order? Well, I'd ask them because I don't care. They're going to eat anyway, but what would be the best value of pizza these days? And let me know. I haven't had pizza in years. Have you noticed that the change in the taste has gotten worse? And where would you go if you had to buy one pizza from a delivery company? Who would you choose and why? Let me know your thoughts and comments because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the political part podcast, you have Rand Paul reacting to Snap and having it give a lot of junk food to folks. He's also reacting to Steven Crowder, who is bringing back Change My Mind. Steven Crowder, well, he actually just interviews this gal. So it's about a minute, and Lord knows he's a lot more articulate than I, so let him speak before he fill on what Rand Paul is talking about.
Determine what these people, everyone deserves treats. First off, not everyone deserves treats. Second, for me, it's pretty simple. You pay, you choose. I pay, the taxpayer, I choose. Milk, eggs, meat, produce, and fabric softener. Otherwise, get to work. Is that fair?
No.
No, that's not fair?
There should be some choice in that.
I don't think there should be any choice. Our soldiers get MREs and they have to pay for them. Why should someone who's able-bodied, choosing not to work, get anything better than our soldiers?
Again, when it comes to able-bodied, it's 60% of people on SNAP are able-bodied. Again, some people are not, but a lot of them, statistically speaking, most of them are able-bodied and could work.
Are you aware of so Snap, because you mentioned this is true. If you go to Amazon, right?
All right.
Snap EBT, okay, right here. So I pay taxes, right? And there are a lot of Americans who work and pay taxes, who are poor, low-income Americans, right?
Yes.
Not on Snap. You get 50% off your Prime membership. You get unlimited groceries for $4.99 a month. Let me show you what's in the groceries. Lavazza Coffee, $25. Rockstar, Ghost Energy. Hey, let's go down to snacks and treats. When you say choice, these are the choices right now that tax pre-filled pumpkin buckets of assorted Halloween candy. Does that seem like helping someone with a tough break? And how do we make the case to low-income Americans that they should fund that? Because they are.
Well, a lot of them have children.
Okay, so do the people paying taxes who are working for a living.
Okay, that's a fair
Right?
point.
I mean, because people say it's taken from the rich, given to the poor. And you look obviously very svelte, and I'm sure you know that obesity is a problem in the country. It doesn't affect you. Probably affects me more than you. I have some that I could lose. But the obesity rate for low-income women in this country, okay, who are not on SNAP, 40%. You know what it is for those on SNAP? 57%. So working class Americans with kids not on SNAP, struggling, are paying to make other people fatter.
That's insane. Now you have Rand Paul responding to this. He says, quote, SNAP is supposed to provide nutrition to struggling families, not energy drinks and junk food that lead to diabetes and obesity. It's time to reform. Now, conspiratorially, I do wonder, well, does the government just want you fat, stupid, and lazy? Do they want you to eat, all that food so you become more unhealthy and more dependent on government insurance and government health care? That way you vote for a bigger, more bloated government to give you more free food and more free health care. It's not the craziest conspiracy theory of all time. I always wonder, is that why they give away all this bad food to these people? Is that why they allow them to buy candy, Coca-Cola? And dumbly enough, and again, it did qualify. I think it was on Amazon and a couple screenshots going around. You can buy, again, cover your ears if you have children listening, edible thongs and panties. I believe they're made from sweet tarts or sweet, what are those things? I forget. It's like a Cheerio, but candy on a string. You could buy that if you're on EBT, which that also perpetuate the issue of them having kids they cannot afford. So perhaps a double negative is unhealthy for you and increases the difficulty of your situation. And I can't think, is the government doing this on purpose? They've been doing it for years. Get more people dependent on the system. The fact that you cannot only buy raw ingredients is abhorrently, it's ridiculous. One of the reasons I think you have more and more Americans saying, get rid of SNAP altogether. Get rid of it, decrease our taxes, let us give money to local charities, nonprofits, and churches who could help people infinitely more effectively, and also maybe vet out some of this fraud. Again, as most Americans are struggling, you see receipts with SNAP benefits where they have a balance of $16,000, $20,000. I think the record is $24,000. That's asinine. And it's being stolen from us, the taxpayers. It's just so much corruption, so much, and it hurts in the long term. You see generational welfare dependent people. You're not helping them short term. You're doing a disservice to them and their family and their children, robbing them of opportunities to get back on their feet and really be more self-sufficient. Now, again, that also guarantees the government more and more votes. Let me know if you think that conspiracy theory is too crazy, or if you think maybe logically, maybe there's some validity to that theory. As we've seen the government give more and more people all this unhealthy crap throughout the decades. You've seen all the videos. Buying the crappiest of food at the Walmart. Buying, again, Coca-Cola. Buying Doritos, Cheetos, pretty much every salty snack on the planet, which also don't help you nutritionally. I mean, not to beat up too much on Frito-Lay, but they do own about 65% of the salty snack aisle is Frito-Lay. Also, same company as PepsiCo. That's why it's called PepsiCo Frito-Lay. And they're buying this stuff, which is engineered to be addictive and delicious, but doesn't really fill them up nutritionally. And it's just a waste of money. Our money. Ridiculous. Now, I think it should be either, I'm to the point where I was thinking just repeal it completely, decrease our taxes so we give more to our local charities. And one of the first comments comes to us thanks to Stan Bazuni. And you see a family at a table, they say, Dad goes, finish your dinner. There's a 350-pound woman on government assistance starving to death. Getting 85 likes. Timmy's says, quote, new SNAP program is awesome. I'd vote for it. And it says, replace EBT SNAP with MREs and watch everyone get jobs. Again, 38 likes. You say that, and yet they wouldn't get jobs. Because then there would be, again, this whole cottage industry of people on SNAP and EBT where they'll sell it. So if there was an issue, if they did change the MREs, I think the market would decrease in terms of, the black market and the gray market. But they would just start selling those to people and making some money. Rated significantly less, I suspect, than selling all the delicious, addictive things from the Walmart. But yeah, even that I don't think would cure. That did get 38 likes. Or Davenport says, quote, the proposed bill that would eliminate all products that are unhealthy makes SNAP program where it only pays for milk, eggs, meats, bread, and other assorted foods. People should have to reapply every 6 months, be drug tested, and apply for work, getting 23 likes. Yep. At the very least. Again, the fact that there have been people on this for generations, just like Section 8 housing, ridiculous. You're not helping them. You're just making them more and more dependent on the government, which, again, guarantees them more votes. Crazy Fix says, Republicans better realize there are 80 million Trump supporters, not 80 million GOP members, getting 5 likes. Sandra Loftus says, you don't say. And there's a cute picture of a bear, and it says, quote, please don't feed the bear. It creates a dependent population unable to take care of themselves. Then Gal goes, you mean like welfare programs? Game 53 likes. Looks like that was a meme from Turning Point USA. Sandra Loftus also says, heck yeah. You have soldiers handing out MREs. It says, want to get rid of EBT fraud. It says, start giving out these tasty treats instead of money. You have all the leftist liberals lining up with their short neon hair, getting 60 likes. Let's see. Echo says, I bring you Snap gum in bulk. This is from Amazon, and it's Icebreakers Wintergreen Sugar-Free Mint Tins, $14.77. It says Snap EBT eligible. That's ridiculous. $15 plus, well, round up for taxes. $17 for candy, and we have to pay for that? Natalie says some of our military are also on SNAP as well. So the question here should be, why are we not paying our military enough to survive and take care of those who risk their lives for the country? That's a good point as well. Be a lot more attention focused on, well, there are some good nonprofits that help veterans get new jobs after they stop serving the country in the military capacity. But yeah, that's something you would think you would come together and fix or work on. You also have, that got 67 likes. Let's see. Griffin says, it's beyond reform. Shut it all down and start again, or don't. Make people work, and if they fall in hard times, go to a church or local food pantry like we used to. That was what it was meant to be when we were a Christian nation, getting 4 likes. Going down more and more. A lot of people saying just replace SNAP with MREs. Let's see here. Rick says, aren't you in the government? Fix it. There's a picture of some junk food and fresh fruits and vegetables, and says, quote, remember Americans on SNAP get to eat, government workers get to eat, government workers get to eat, because Republicans voted yes to open the government and Democrats voted no, getting 5 likes. Some assholes, or this guy says, oh yes, epitome of self-regulated food. You know, there's a picture of Steven Crowder when he was getting surgery, but again, he had a heart issue. That wasn't because he's obese. Jeremy Couch says, now the extreme libertarian positioning on welfare is that chairs should be rearranged, getting 6 likes, which he should be saying just repeal it all. Lynn Claret says, limit to 20 staples, beans, pasta, rice, produce, flour, sugar, etc., getting 6 likes. I think that'd be a good idea. Max McDillon says, the nutritious and healthy meals need to be made more affordable. Cheap, simple, and easy foods feed Americans that have been driven away from leisure. Wait, it says cheap, simple, and easy foods feed an American that's been driven away from leisurely 9 to 5 for middle Americans to hustle and bustle up for the cash and hustle struggle, starve to the bottom. Getting 7 likes and bringing up one of my biggest pet peeves, people saying, oh yeah, if you're poor, you can't afford to eat healthy. Ridiculous, mentally vacuous, of course. I said that because there have been periods in my life where I lived beyond or below the poverty line. And you know what I did? Went to Walmart, bought the cheapest Hunt's pasta sauce. I believe the can of that was like 68 cents when I was in Iowa. You also have a 2-pound bag of carrots for $1.99. Well, $1.75 now. It's more, of course, because of inflation. You get beans for still, I believe, under $1 per can if you get the Great Value Walmart brand. Beans and rice are pretty damn cheap. And they're pretty damn healthy for you. And if you really want to eat healthy, you can. It does take some effort. Food prep is a huge thing. But again, you do not need to be a Rockefeller millionaire to eat healthy. Now, if you want to go to the where the rich people go, if you want to go shop at Whole Foods, yeah, they're going to charge you an arm and a leg. It's a very fancy environment. You got the fanciest of foods. But again, Walmart does have raw ingredients, and you can eat healthy on a budget. It's not going to be the most addictively delicious foods of all time. It's not going to be like your bag of Doritos. But again, it will be good for you. You also have In God We Trust, all is we pay in cash. Say, quote, no candy, no cakes, no soda pop, sugar or dieted, no meat that costs more than $5 per pound. He says, run it like a WIC program, healthcare visits, citizens only, limited time, if not disabled. Gain 12, so I get 13 likes. There's a couple of people putting more pictures of MREs. Then people are saying, Russell says reform will never happen. It's Congress, getting 6 likes. Yeah, I hope it. I mean, I'm pretty pessimistic in terms of whatever we'll see, but yeah, I don't know. At this point, I actually think just shut it down, give us our money back, and let us give it to more nonprofits so they can do it more effectively. But let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting political news, you have Stellantis pushing back on the EU's totalitarian evil government crackdown on gas engines by 2035. Now, this is brought to us thanks to Motor1.com, specifically one of the writers over there by name of Adrian Padiano. And he says, quote, Stellantis is against EU's 2035 combustion engine ban. The owner of 14 car brands urges a reform to keep ICE past 2025. There you can see one of the nice, I was about to say nice Alfa Romeo engines. I don't think anyone's ever said that before. It's an okay engine, definitely not reliable. It's Italian, but yeah, these companies, well, they know they'll be out of business if this passes or continues about this path. Now, Adrian says, quote, earlier this year, the evil, draconian, totalitarian European Union, okay, I added that description because it's true, reaffirmed its stance on phasing out the sale of new cars with combustion engines from 2035. However, the rule isn't set in stone, as the zero tailpipe emission pledge is still up for debate. The initial plan was to review the proposal in 2026, but that has been moved forward to next month. For obvious reasons, most automakers are against the measure, and Stellantis is the latest to speak up. In an interview with Political, automotive conglomerate chairman John Elkann said the EU should reconsider and allow combustion engines by beyond 2035. He was specifically referring to plug-in hybrids and range-extended EVs, in which gas engines serve as a generator to recharge the battery. He is also Ferrari's chairman, and he sees a future for alternative fuels on another path towards decarbonization. They say that, quote, but even before the proposed 2035 cutoff date, automakers selling cars in Europe face other targets. They must comply with progressively lower fleet emissions, dropped by 15% from 2025 to 2029, interval compared to 2020 to 2024. The EU initially wanted car makers to hit the new target by the end of the year, but has since granted more time. They must now average, arbitrary numbers, 93.6 grams per kilometer across 25-27 instead of adhering to strict annual limits. The next hurdle comes in 2030, for the interval running through the end of 2034. Companies ought to cut their fleet emissions even further, reaching just 49.5 grams per kilogram. Elkann wants the EU to give automakers more time to comply, rather than having to meet stricter annual targets by 2030. Stellantis chairman believes the industry should be allowed to average emissions over 5 years, 2028 to 2032. Or does not have draconian bullshit regulations that destroy automotive companies and will let China take over the world. Again, EU is a weak, conquered gathering of nations, and they've been destroyed with mass migration. You look at who's being abused. The women and children are victims every day. They arrest people for memes. They're the most evil governments in history. And now they want to further cripple the local economies by ensuring China will destroy the automotive industry altogether, because they will be the dominant EV manufacturer. Because an EV is just a smartphone on wheels, and China, replicates steals technologies and tweaks it better than anyone else on the planet. Again, these rules, I believe, are designed to destroy the automotive economy in Europe. You'll never beat, and China's just going to eat their lunch. Now, they say, quote, it's easy to see why Stellantis and other major automakers oppose being forced to sell only EVs. Yeah, also freedom. But again, the EU is such a weak, conquered area, they only allow citizens to have pocket knives. They force you to be a victim there. It's an evil place. They say electric vehicles held just 16.1% market share in the European Union through September, according to the data from the European Automobile Manufacturer Association. Hitting 100% in 9 years is highly unrealistic and would wreak havoc across the industry by putting a tremendous number of jobs at risk. Also, how do you charge those pieces of trash? As they ban, most efficient way to make energy would be nuclear. And they foolishly were dependent on Russia for their oil before the whole conflict. Yeah, so you're going to force EVs, but you can't even charge you can't charge them. There's not a way to manufacture that mass volume except for maybe China swoops in and just floods the market and destroys, again, what has historically been some of the best brands in the world. Well, not for liability, but for fun. We got Volkswagen Auto Group. That one group alone, you've got Audi, Volkswagen, Lamborghini, Ducati for motorcycles, Bugatti. You also have Porsche, of course. You have Italy. Well, obviously, you got the Alfa Romeo. We got Ferrari, Lamborghini. In Germany, you also have, BMW, BMW. You also have, obviously, Mercedes, Daimler Benz. Great companies that have leaders of the industry for decades. Again, not for reliability. Though, funny enough, decades ago, Mercedes actually was reliable, believe it or not. But again, why are you bowing down to the EU? Why are you letting this evil conglomerate destroying all these countries' individuality, destroying their economy, taking away the freedom and rights of all the individuals? Yeah, I've always been against the EU. Even as a kid, I thought it was stupid. Now, they also say, quote, a couple months ago, BMW's chief technology officer, Mr. Post, said that forcing EV adoption can kill the industry. His statement echoed a similar warning from Mercedes CEO Ola Kolnzos, who argued that the European car industry is, quote, heading full speed into a wall if ICE ban stays in place. He is correct. They say the share of EVs in total sales across the 27 EU weak conquered countries, okay, I added that last part, is likely to increase in coming years, yeah, because they're forced to. It's not just a wild assumption, but an educated guess based on influx of upcoming affordable vehicles. Renault just released a sub 20,000 EU Twingo. I'll give them some credit, that's a unique, funny name. And Volkswagen will launch a $25,000 A Polo in 2026, followed by a $20,000 model in 2027. Of course, there's also growing competition from affordable Chinese EVs, and legacy automakers are trying to fend off the budget-friendly models, like Stellantis even owns Citroën C3 for under $20,000. Which, again, you'll never beat China. And the only reason why China isn't destroying the U.S. consumer electronics industry is because, Trump banned Huawei. They were really getting a market share. They were really growing, especially in the phone category. And again, these EVs are just smartphones on wheels, equally disposable, nearly impossible to work on. And again, why is this evil government just, it is pathetic how all these individual countries be just conquered by the EU. And now the draconian EU is saying, oh, you can't have gas cars. The most profitable, important things that automotive manufacturers make. Again, they all lose money on EVs. The ones that they're selling right now, they're all negative. And then that's not unique to those European companies. Ford lost an average of $53,000 per EV last year. Again, only Tesla's made a profit on EVs. I'll give them some credit over there with Elon. These companies are losing money every day on these EVs. Consumers are only buying them in many cases because the government is forcing them to. And it is so pathetic how Europe's just fallen. There used to be some great, strong individual countries, but very unique. They have their own culture, their own currencies, own technologies, innovations, contributions to mankind. And now you just have the giant EU, an abomination, a totalitarian evil thing, is going to ensure that they destroy the automotive industry. These companies need to be pushing back twice as hard, letting the people know, hey, why don't you leave the EU? Why are you being bullied by this evil government that's going to destroy your livelihood? Going to ensure China wins long term. Who doesn't want you to own anything? You'll own nothing and be happy, they say. So it's, again, unless they push this ban out, this is going to be a death nail for all major European automotive manufacturers. Again, none of them make a profit on EVs. The roadmap isn't even there. I bring up Ford because I've been following their analytics more and more in terms of the EV historicals. It's not like they're losing less money every year and moving in the right direction. Ford, was it every year? Ford is, they started at 2022, I think they lost $4.8 billion. Then the year following is $4.9 billion, then $5.1 billion. Now, again, some of this is factory costs, infrastructure. But again, it's also the vehicles themselves, the batteries, all the widgets, and all the very expensive components. And again, Ford's not unique in losing money on EVs. They all are. And they're just bullying the consumer to say, well, yeah. And again, maybe this is all part of the plan. You'll own nothing and be happy. And they can't do anything about it. The EU is such a weak conquered area. They arrest their citizens for memes. They fine people for memes. They have no freedom there. They used to sneer at us my whole life. This would be a bad European accent. But, well, I was going to say, as they say in Europe, Allah Akbar. But in all seriousness, I'll try a European accent. But you Americans need your guns and your firearms. Bad French accent, but the attempt was made. Well, thank God we have the Second Amendment and the First Amendment because our government hasn't completely conquered us. We still have a semblance of individual freedom here. Our God-given freedoms are inscribed in the Bill of Rights, and our Constitution is brilliant and exceptional. The EU has nothing. And unfortunately, as they become more and more conquered, governments become more and more evil, I don't think they're going to push this deadline or get rid of this. All these countries are going to say, fine, Germany was smart and strong, had good politicians. They don't. They'd say, you know what? We're the headquarters of some of the greatest automotive companies on the planet. We're going to keep making these. Now, again, the issue that will affect us in terms of the United States consumer, the United States is one of the most important markets, obviously, for the automotive industry. Again, there's a huge thing in terms of the economies of scale. When you buy things in bulk, just like when you go to the Costco. And if the only place they can sell gas engines is the United States, that means the cost of goods will increase because all the individual widgets that make up the vehicle, well, they're only going to be for the U.S. market. They're not going to be able to get that bulk deal of all those like maybe pistons or whatever. That would be for vehicles in the U.S., Europe, and across the globe. So this will affect the United States automotive market, and it's just rough because again, cost of things are going up in general. But now, if you want to get your fancy European vehicle, it will become more and more expensive. And again, these companies, I don't think any of them will be able to successfully transition to making profitable EVs in, I would argue, our lifetime, yet alone the arbitrary time frame that the EU has put together. It's just not feasible. And again, even if they could, the small chance that they can make the vehicle, who's going to buy them when China will make it for a fraction of the price? And I mean, I just don't see a scenario. I don't know. Is this because European leaders have sold out years ago and they're just doing China's work? I mean, we've seen U.S. politicians who sell us out left and right. So I'm pretty pessimistic, unfortunately, about Stellantis is pushing back, saying it's not possible. I don't think the government cares. I think they'll say, you'll make it work or not. Again, even the U.S., when Biden was in office, this is very much a political issue. One of the most regulated industries on the planet is automotive. I mean, Ford almost had to pay a $1.2 billion fine because their fleet fuel average wasn't to the government's liking. So that is one of the reasons they make EVs is just change those numbers. But they're still losing money on it. So it's very sad because at the end of the day, I'm very pessimistic in terms of Europeans ever having freedom again. Yet alone freedom, to meme, but also freedom to have vehicle choices. I think long term, all these major automotive companies headquartered in Germany and Italy, they're going to subsequently go bankrupt in our lifetime. But let me know your thoughts because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the business blunder of the day, you have Honda with a rare recall, this time for the Honda Accord. Now, this brought to us thanks to Jack Fitzgerald, who's a writer at Car and Driver. And he says, quote, Honda recalls 250,000 Accord hybrids with powertrain issue. And they say that an error in the integrated control module software might lead to an additional CPU reset that cuts power to the wheels. Whoops. Yeah, another reason I'm not a fan of hybrids, or, well, if I'm honest, not much technology with vehicles, because the more tech you put of them, the more variables of things that can inevitably break. I can't think vehicle reliability peaked in the 2000 era, but that's just me. Now they say, quote, Honda specifically recalling 256,603 Accord hybrid sedans over an issue with the integrated control module software. A subset of the 2023 to 2025 Accord hybrids may lose power to the wheels while driving because of the ICM software issue. Honda plans to update the affected models with updated software for the ICM, which corrects the error that leads to cutting the drive power. Jeez Louise. I don't know how they messed it up this bad. Well, spoiler alert, subcontractor. They said, quote, according to the NHTSA documents, an issue within the ICM CPU programming can lead to the unit reset while the vehicle is driving. If it happens, they will lose power to the wheels. They say the recall documents blame a miscommunication with the supplier that did not fully understand the required ICM CPU specifications, leading to false CPU abnormality detections and unintended ICM resets. At the time of filing this recall, automaker is not aware of any warranty claims or reported accidents or injuries related to the issue. Sorry, I should put a visual disclaimer. You have to see the Honda Accord, which does not look as good as it used to be. They say Honda has developed an improved ICM CPU software and has already been implemented into production. Owners of affected vehicles will be contacted by mail and asked to schedule an appointment with their dealer, who will reprogram the vehicle with the new software. They know that dealer notifications have already started and Honda plans to send out owner notification letters by the first week of 2026. Or just tune into the Topping Show, where we usually cover these recalls weeks or months before they are actually physically mailed out. They also note that owners will be concerned the vehicle may be included in the recall can check NHTSA site.here. And again, Honda's known for a lot of things. They're not known for sports cars or really exciting vehicles as much as I personally love my Honda Civic Si. I think it's a great track toy personally. Honda, above all else, is known for value and reliability. is cheaper than a Toyota and just almost as reliable as a Toyota. You know, my parents, they bought a 2001 Honda Accord, new. To this day, it runs like a champ. 4 cylinders of glory in that little Honda. The little 4-banger works great. Sadly enough, though, it was automatic transmission, so kind of boring to drive. But nevertheless, Honda's known for one thing, and this is one of the issues. Cars nowadays have between 10 and 30,000 components. A lot of them from subcontractors like here. And there's a lot of areas where you get miscommunication, and you just have, in this case, a catastrophic one where you could lose power to the wheels. So you gotta have a lot of quality assurance. So unfortunately, Honda failed to catch this when they were, inspecting the actual parts, but also when they put it on the vehicle and started to test it, they didn't catch it either. Now, thankfully, no one passed away, no one's been hurt or injured or has died because of this, issue. So Honda is nice that they did get ahead of this recall, but gotta say, Honda, a recall against reliability, gotta say that's certainly the business blunder of the day. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, try to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so click that button, greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback. Let me know how I can make the show better and better. Like I say, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, anyone, everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.